The New Orleans Saints, most people feel, are locks to win the NFC South. This is probably considered to be the worst division in the NFL going into this year. The Panthers have looked like shit so far throughout the preseason. The Atlanta Falcons, they could be interesting. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, ew. Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, you like that? You think Tampa Bay could win the NFC South over the New Orleans Saints? With Baker at QB? I don't really like that. But the New Orleans Saints, though, they got the most talented team in this division. I think we could all agree Chris Olave is one of the best receivers in the NFL. You got Michael Thomas, who also is a really good receiver when he's actually able to stay on the field. You got a pretty solid offensive line that had some injury issues last year. For the most part, this old line should improve, at least be a tad bit better this season than what it was last year. And the biggest acquisition for the Saints was getting Derek Carr. And with them signing Derek Carr free agency, that gives them a slight advantage in winning the NFC South because they have the best quarterback in this division. And when you have the best quarterback in your division, it normally gives you a little bit of a boost compared to the other teams in your division who have some concerns at the quarterback position. Bryce Young, how long is it going to take him to adjust to the speed of the NFL game and for that offense to get in rhythm? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is Baker Mayfield even going to be serviceable? Will he even be their starting quarterback for the whole entire season? The Atlanta Falcons, how is Desmond Ridder going to look? Is he capable of being able to be good enough for them to be a playoff caliber team? You see, the New Orleans Saints, there's a lot of reasons to like this team, and there's a lot of reasons for why you should pick this team to win the NFC South. But can you really trust a team that has a head coach with a losing record, his first couple of years as a head coach? Dennis Allen, he had a losing record with the Las Vegas Raiders in his first season as the full-time head coach for New Orleans. They missed out on the postseason. And you can say that, well, he had to deal with a lot of injuries, but Sean Payton had to deal with a lot of injuries his final season in New Orleans in 2021. You remember he went 9-8 with several different quarterbacks, Jameis, Taysom Hill, Ian Book, Trevor Siemian, and his best receiver that year was Marquez Callaway. If Sean Payton can go 9-8 with a depleted, injury-riddled roster in 2021, why did the New Orleans Saints regress the year after with a better team? If Sean Payton was the head coach of New Orleans, do you think they would have missed the playoffs last year? You see, I love the talent that the New Orleans Saints have. And it's easy to fall in love with this team based off their roster. But do you know another team that we were all falling in love with around this time last season? The Denver Broncos. What did they have? They had a really good team around Russell Wilson, good receivers, on paper will look to be a pretty serviceable offensive line, and a fantastic defense. And obviously when the season kicked off, shit hit the fan. You want to know why? Because they didn't have a good head coach. Nathaniel Hackett was an awful hire by the Denver Broncos, one of the worst hires in NFL history. You remember Jason Garrett, the master clapper, all those years where the Dallas Cowboys were underachieving, despite having some of the best rosters in the NFL? It's because he was an average head coach at best. When you have a good team but a bad head coach, it hinders how good you can be. It hinders your team being able to reach their potential. And if you're really putting your confidence and your faith in the New Orleans Saints this year to win the NFC South, I gotta ask you, do you really trust Dennis Allen that much? Historically, outside of Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, and maybe a couple of outliers, there haven't really been too many head coaches that have had losing records and then have ended up being able to make it work during their second start or their second stop. The coaches who normally are successful when they get second chance opportunities to become head coaches again are the coaches who have winning records at their previous destination. Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, those are guys who got fired from their first job and were successful at their second jobs because they were proven head coaches. It's just that sometimes you need to change the scenery. But Dennis Allen, he hasn't been good anywhere he's been as a head coach, and he doesn't have a winning track record as a head coach. And when you have a head coach that at this point of his head coaching tenure that has this losing record, he kind of already has showed you what he is. And you see, I think a lot of people get excited about the idea of what the New Orleans Saints can be. But you see, when I look at New Orleans right now, I look at a team that they're missing the most important part to a championship team. And that's a great head coach. You can't win a Super Bowl if you don't have good coaching. There's a reason why you can win a Super Bowl despite not having the best quarterback, but having a great team and a good coach around them. But you can't win a Super Bowl with a great team and a bad coach. It just doesn't happen. Eventually, your coaching has to be up to par. And I don't think New Orleans, with Dennis Allen at the mantle, is going to be good enough for New Orleans to be able to take advantage of this weak division. Yeah, we know New Orleans is the more superior team than the other teams in this division by a mile. And if they had Sean Payton, not only would I pick them to win the NFC South this year, but I probably would have them as Super Bowl contenders. But they don't have Sean Payton. He's in Denver. They got Dennis Allen. And Dennis Allen, he hasn't really proven much as a head coach. He's a good defensive-minded coach. He's really good on the defense side of the football. But I don't know if he's just head coach material. There's just a lot of things that goes into becoming a good head coach. You got to be able to build a good relationship with your players. You got to be able to communicate to your players effectively in a way that's able to elevate their play. You see, Dennis Allen, he lacks in a lot of qualities when it comes to becoming a good head coach. He doesn't have good clock management. He can be overly conservative at times, overly aggressive at times. I just don't think he's a good head coach, and I think he's going to be a large reason why the Saints probably won't win this division. And it sounds like a hot take, and I'm not hating on the New Orleans Saints. I have nothing against the Saints. I'm not a Falcons fan, a Panthers fan, or a Bucks fan. I'm a fan of the NFL. I have nothing against the New Orleans Saints. And I'm not knocking the talent that the Saints have. I'm saying that if they had a better head coach, I would be much higher on them. So do you really trust the Saints to win the NFC South this year? Because I don't. If you were to ask me, gun to my head right now, life on the line, what team I would have to bet money on to save my life to win this division, I'm going with either the Panthers or the Falcons. I'm not putting my faith in Dennis Allen. History has showed us that if you have a head coach that has a losing record within his first 3 to 4 years, most of the times it tells you that he's not a good head coach. And I think we've seen enough of Dennis Allen over the years to know that he's not head coach material. It's crazy how Saints fans are so excited about this season, how everybody just wants to throw the concerns about Dennis Allen underneath the rug because they got Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a good quarterback, but he's not a quarterback that's going to be great with dysfunctional coaching. For Derek Carr to be effective, he needs good coaching. And I don't think that he's going to be receiving that in New Orleans. There were Saints fans that wanted Dennis Allen fired during the middle portion of last season. There were literally petitions for Dennis Allen to lose his job. And Saints fans are just acting like that didn't happen. Derek Carr can be a serviceable quarterback if you got the right pieces around him. New Orleans has a good team, but I don't know if Pete Carmichael is it at offensive coordinator. I think Pete Carmichael kind of has forgotten how to be a good offensive coordinator. He was way better when Sean Payton was on the staff versus when Sean Payton was gone. The coaching just is a big question mark for me going into this year for the New Orleans Saints. They lost their defensive coordinator to the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know how great their pass rush is going to be. There are some roster concerns that I have as well. But more so, my concerns with New Orleans lie with Dennis Allen. And I think that the Saints are probably going to be what the Denver Broncos were last year. The media darlings, everybody is picking them to win a division. They think they're a lock because of how weak this division is. But the only time being in a weak division can be advantageous for you is if you have a great head coach. And the Saints don't have that. They don't even have a decent head coach. You can win a weak division with even a decent head coach. Bill O'Brien was winning the AFC South for multiple occasions when the AFC South was down. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys when they had Jason Garrett a couple of years. That division was down. But when you're in a weak division and you have a terrible head coach, at least somebody who's proven to be a bad head coach up to this point in division with other bad head coaches that have losing records, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it because you're not a good head coach. And Dennis Allen, I just don't think he's it.